Good evening, Thomas. We are on back on track here for our grab bag episode. This is Mike with the first last Nerdom. My co-host is Tom, and we cover all things Nerdom. And therein, especially in this show, we have quite a bit full. We were a little bit late. I was a little bit late in getting out our last one, but this will be a double header. So watch us upload 2 grab bags from the last couple weeks, and we're back at it. With that being said, what say you, Thomas?
Oh, well, with your good evening, it made me think it's October, and maybe we should have said that with the Transylvania accent. Like, good evening. I need a cape there for my good evening. And maybe we can work something out. Yeah. Yeah. So we're being extra spooky this month. So we're covering horror movies on our main podcast. So check those out if you're horror inclined, and even if you're not, maybe if you ever thought of maybe being into horror but wasn't sure, we're going to show you why you should be into horror by spotlighting the cream of the cream, maybe the worst of the worst, who knows. But
and we started the month off with X, an A24 flick, as well as Men, another A24 flick, which was made by Alex Garland, and then we continued on this week. We rolled on to Annihilation and to Ex Machina. Again, Alex Garland flicks. One of those two is an A24 flick as well, which I didn't know, but you sprung that on me as we were going through the course of the show.
Sprung it on you.
Yeah, but for sure. Keep it. Well, we're going to keep it going. And October is a very fun month. It is one of my most favorite times of the year. I know it is for you as well. Those cool nights and bonfires and all that, and then you go to bed. What lies beneath, or whatever. Indeed. With that being said, we might as well jump into our grab bag things. This week, I actually stepped up, and I found a lot of things, as well as you, for our news culture things. And we might as well just get into it here. This is like kind of like one of the things, like, so Rings of Power has been on for quite a while. And it is not doing so well in the mediascape as far as it goes. The reason why I say that is this past week, they had 2 Hollywood Reporter articles, basically with Selkie was like one of the head honchos of Amazon, and they were doing this. And then they did another article where they did an exclusive, a takedown, so to speak, of like the top 5 criticisms of Rings of Power or whatever. Those will be in the description. But in any case, I think the general consensus is finally matured enough to say that Rings of Power, it is not what Amazon wanted it to be, and that it's coming out more and more of the coverage, and not just the folks on the other side of the aisle who just can't stand it, the true fans. But this article goes through. It's a rundown. I'm not going to scroll down and spoiler.
Hey, that's not my guide. They need to rename that.
Indeed, that is not Thomas McAllister's guide at all. But episode 7, we're getting up to. I think we're up to episode 8, the penultimate episode, second to last. And basically, this was kind of just like a generic nerd's opinion of kind of stepping out and being like, "Hey, I enjoyed episode 6. It was good." But at the end of the day, we're getting close to the end of the series of the season 1, and it's not hitting the bona fides that the fans are expecting. And that's all this article says. I don't want to belabor it too much, but Rings of Power is in trouble. And it kind of matters. It kind of doesn't, because allegedly, and Amazon was the one that put this out like 2 years ago, like the most expensive TV show ever. They were the ones that pushed the button on the hype machine, and they kept pushing that button to amp it up. And when it doesn't deliver, you get what you get what you get, and you don't pitch a fit.
Yeah. Yeah, if you waft the fart, all you get is fart.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be 100% honest with our audience here. After I watched a little bit of episode 3, but from that point forward, I kind of tuned out, and I've been living vicariously through a few select choice YouTube channels that kind of have fed me the storyline, and their biased opinion, of course. But I'm an adult enough to know if I want to hear it or not, or if there's something there for me to go back and look at myself. I would. I haven't. Where do you fall at with this? Like now that we're so far in the season with this, like, have you kept up with it? Like, what's your what's your stance? What's your take at this point?
My hot take. I like it. Sorry.
It's good.
It's a show. It's a show. It's it's you're not gonna get Game of Thrones every time. You're not gonna get The Sopranos every time. You're not gonna get Breaking Bad every time. You're not always gonna get the big show. Sometimes you just get a okay sci-fi show, and sometimes you just want to throw that on and watch it. And when I say okay sci-fi show, that's basically what I mean. The Sci-Fi Channel, they were notorious for pushing out a lot of sci-fi fantasy content that people liked. Just like a little, it was like eating popcorn or chips. It's neither here nor there. It's nothing stand out. It's nothing amazing, but if it kind of hits your good spot, there it is. Now the fact that $500 million, and I think the quartering, I know that kind of labels me since I watch him, but he pointed out a good point that because he's watching every episode of like I am, that that we're almost well, he said about 10 hours in. I would say probably more like 9 hours after the final episode. Which is if you watch the extended versions of the Lord of the Rings movies, that's at least 2 of the movies in, partially into a third. And if you look at what happens in those movies as opposed to what's happening in series, not a lot of traction. And that's one of the problems with the show, is that the pace, you're comparing it to Lord of the Rings more towards Peter Jackson's version of it as opposed to J.R.R. Tolkien. Come on, not everybody's read the book. I read it back when I was a teenager, so will not. I promise you, I don't remember everything. I remember it more like the way Peter Jackson gave it to us, which isn't word for word. So you're comparing it against that. So the pacing's off on the show as far as it's paced like a TV show. It's paced like a Netflix show in that it wants you to watch the extended show. There's episodes that give you buffer. It just keeps talking, just extend the runtime, just to keep you involved in it and watching more hours. And the fact that 8 hours, that tells you, in the fact that they could probably have cut it down to 6 episodes. They probably should, because they lost me in the middle episodes. Like episode 5 was just them going, I don't want to do this. You need to do this. No, I don't want to do it. Yeah, you need to do it. And then in this 7th episode, there's a lot more of that going on as well. And then there's no way around it. Gladriel, I have no problem with her being overpowered because she's an elf. Whatever, elves have big special powers. She's and the fact that she's not very likable. It's okay if you have the supporting characters. Like say you have a Punisher or something. You could have him cold face, or Conan the Barbarian. Kind of lack of personality, kind of cold on a mission. As long as you have supporting characters around them that's animated and brings up the the level of excitement around them. That okay, but all the characters around Gladriel are kind of moping around as well. So that part of the story kind of starts dipping down. The only time I really get Lord of the Ring vibes is when the elf guy, I forget his name, Eldor or something, with the dwarf. There's the
I,
kinship between the dwarf and the elf.
okay.
That whole relationship. If you boil down Lord of the Rings, for me personally, it's about friendship and the strength through that friendship, and that relationship kind of spotlights that. And then the hard feet to a lesser extent. I'm kind of invested in them. I kind of like that group of people. So those two storylines I'm invested in. The whole Gladriel thing, it's like okay, whatever. So yeah, I mean, I'm watching it. Could be a lot better. It's not as bad as everybody says. If I don't put a price tag on things. No one should.
Right.
Amazon was boasting they spent $500 million. That's on them for spotlighting that. And if
Right.
people want to talk about that, that's fine because they put that out there. But my job, I think, is to judge something on its quality. And as far as the quality, it looks great. It looks amazing. You've got a you got a $500 million production value that probably should have been used on a spectacular movie series with a great story. But it's it's been spent on an average level sci-fi TV show.
Well, and to be devil's advocate and support that, when they were going through this and they picked the showrunners, they picked the powers that be to make this.
Mhm.
They had to run this back across the Tolkien estate. So the fact that the Tolkien estate said yes to these folks in Amazon's plan and no to like a Netflix, like Marvel kind of, oh, we'll do this one and that one, like kind of piecemeal like Marvel. Time will tell. Again, I fully admit to like watching maybe 10 minutes of season or episode 3 and kind of dipping out. I definitely live vicariously through other
Mhm.
critics and who have had somewhat reasonable good things to say about it. They have other negative things to say and they kind of point blank do that. But at the end of the day, like this thing of like the fans hating it or whatever, or fans being racist or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
is bullshit, in my opinion. And the thing is that like, you know, if it's good, let it stand on its own. You don't need propping up from whatever cell key from this article or whatever. You don't need these PR things to kind of support
Mhm.
and upload it. Like I understand to a point that's true to the extent that like at the end of the day, if you don't defend the content that you create, I understand that. Like so fair hand there. Amazon Prime absolutely has a right to defend whatever, but I would preface that they didn't help their case by suspending for 72 hours. They suspended reviews, and they extended. In that same Hollywood article or reporter article that I mentioned, they also said that they extended that plus 5 days. So the fact that you had that, and it's still going on today, there's been some give and take about that. That's inside baseball. Nobody really cares about. Your mom and pop don't care about that. The normies don't care about that. At the end of the day, what matters is do they show up? Do they tune in? Do they watch it enough? And the fact of the matter is, regardless of whether you have a legitimate criticism or it's just overblown hate watching, whatever, the fact is that there's going to be 5 seasons of this, period, in discussion because they have to amortize that cost over 5 years. And you know what? Maybe it'll pick up. Hope springs eternal. These things, like maybe there's something for me to hop in there at some point. I don't hate it. I'm not enough. I do not consider myself enough of a fantasy fan to weigh in and say, "Don't watch this." I would never say that unless it's truly terrible. But and even still, I'll say, "Well, it's a slog, so whatever." Not saying that about this particular thing, but the fact is that the PR game Amazon Prime does not know what the hell it's doing when it comes to the fans and entertainment in Hollywood. Whereas, like, okay, maybe there was some criticism about haircuts for elves or other characters of that. But the thing is that
That's
um,
silly stuff.
well, it is all silly stuff. And to that point, the thing is that if it's good and it stands on its own, you won't hear boo from the producers or from anybody. The fact that they have to weigh in and tip the scales toward like just watch it. I would have a lot more respect for Amazon if they were genuine and they came through this whole thing and said, look, maybe you like it, maybe you don't. All we're asking is that you just give us your time and you watch it. But there's definitely, I do believe for sure, the showrunners that made the show, I choose to believe that they legitimately love Tolkien and they legitimately came at this from their own point of view, and they created something. And whether it's good or not, time will tell. Whatever. Like again, this kind of falls in uh, the people that absolutely love it, the people that absolutely hate it, whatever. It kind of falls somewhere in the middle. And whether that's for you or not, that's up to you to decide. But at the end of the day, I think that Amazon has a lot of maturing to do as far as their PR and understanding how the entertainment world works. That's the only criticism I would have. But hey, quartering, I know quartering and I know Nerdrotic and some of the other folks say, if you like it, you like it. That's all that matters. So like whether you continue to watch their content or not from that point of view is neither here nor there. But I hope this does kind of do something. And my understanding is that episode 8 leaves us with like the makings of literally a huge chunk of the lore of where the Southlands were the Southlands. Little spoiler, but and I won't spoil it too much, but Mordor. I'll leave it at that. But in any case, check it out. Go see it. Go decide for
Yeah.
yourself.
Well,
That's the most
and then
important thing.
yeah, and they have a five season plan for this.
Right. They do.
I think they could have took a little bit out of the playbook, and I know we bag on Disney all the time, but with the Disney Plus, but Andor, Star Wars Andor, their original plan was either 4 or 5 seasons, and cut it down to 2. The showrunner Tony Gilroy, he said, what if we cut it down to 2 years, compact all those stories down, the 5-year plan down to um two seasons, where it's like 3 or 4 episodes are would been that season. And so
Mhm.
that's why the first 3 episodes of Andor they released all at once, because it kind of plays
Um,
like a movie.
okay.
Kind of plays like a movie. And some people have complained about the pacing of it being slow. Even though it's telling a full season worth of story, uh and they're cutting it down to 3 episodes, it doesn't feel rushed. They are pacing it correctly, and maybe they're skimming over certain storylines that they would have obviously had expanded, but it plays more like a movie. And so they're in the second section of the story arc. The first story arc played more like a western of a guy that's down on his luck, wanted, and needs to get out of town. The
Right.
second group of episodes are him pulling off a heist. So there's basic story, classic storylines that they're telling through the eyes of Star Wars, and even less of Star Wars. It's more of just a science fiction story. These next set of episodes have been more Star Wars, in that we're seeing TIE fighters and more classic items, vehicles and outfits that ring true to Star Wars, but they're not overly. We haven't seen a lightsaber yet, so we haven't seen a baby Yoda or anything. There's just like good stories, and the main actor's really good. I like him. So if maybe Amazon would have been better suited to cut these down to even smaller seasons, or um, combining some of the seasons down
Yeah.
into one season.
And I will say this about Andor in the YouTube verse, because I'm pretty plugged into Star Wars type channels, like more positive, not the hate watchers, but the folks that are positive. And everything that I've heard is the worst criticism I would say about Andor that I've heard is like, one, it's really well done. It is classic sci-fi. But the third thing that kind of rolls against folks is that doesn't feel like Star Wars. But having said that, what my most positive interpretation of that is that it's like kind of like along the same lines as Star Trek, but back in Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine was very dark for Star Trek. It was very not Star Trek-y, so to speak. And I'm not going to get into I'm not going to get into Picard or Discovery, because I feel like about that. But what we found out was if you stick long enough with it, they came through. And what I mean by that is, like, we watched Strange New Worlds. So hope, it's important to always have hope that they'll turn the corner and they'll find something, and maybe Andor is what they need. And I have heard I'm gonna say I've heard enough positive flickers for me to say, you know what, I need to put all this stuff off to the side and go watch Andor season, like whatever's out there, and really decide for myself. Because like I have baggage with Star Wars, like many folks do, whatever. Like where I'm just kind of all like, and I've said this before in our on our coverage of these things. I'll show up to Star Wars of one of two things. One, if we're covering something specifically that's is value, what we do for the show, and there's no love or hate there. There's just covering it and see how you like it. And or two, which is if it crosses the threshold for normies, and I think that we're probably 3 to 6 months away from like normies being like, hey, Andor is like really good. You should check it out. So we'll see. But like we'll have a conversation offline. Like maybe we should do justice to it and cover it more in its entirety. Because I do think that what I've heard is like, you can't just, I've heard other criticisms of Star Wars, this and that, offshoots on the small screen, whatever. And I've heard it's been more negative than positive. But for Andor, there's enough there to warrant more of a serious look. Let's put it that way. So
Yeah.
I don't want to miss anything per se. At the same time, like I'm only going to show up if there's quality there, but sometimes there's not. But like from what you've said and from what other folks that I've heard and I trust opinions, they say, don't roll up expecting Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi and classic Star Wars things like Yoda, like you were saying, like Baby Yoda, this and that, whatever. Don't roll up like that, but maybe this is a little bit more mature Star Wars that we can bank on and that they can build upon. Look, man, if it gives us better quality Star Wars across the board, I'm all for it. I'll say that. Like, I'm never gonna like ride something into the ground like they shouldn't make it. And some of the things, the animosity that I have with the hate watchers is like their opinion is like, you shouldn't have made it. Well, you know what though? That's not right either, because if you don't make something, then you can't even bitch about it. You can't complain about it. So yeah, I get the whole corporate feel of this or that or whatever. But anyway, we're belaboring. Well, we can move on. Sorry.
Right.
In Netflix, in Amazon Prime's favor, I read that there's a very good sci-fi show coming out called The Peripheral, or I don't know if it's a show or movie. I know the trailer's out. I know that it's due to hit Amazon Prime soon, but it's William Gibson's, based on one of his things. There are other aspects tied in, but damn, I definitely, and you called in Westworld to see it, but this has all the hallmarks of something to pay attention to for sure. And maybe once our month is over and we can get back into sci-fi, this might be something that will be on our radar to cover. We'll see. But I'm all for. And the one thing I will say positive about Amazon Prime,
Mhm.
they know how to do sci-fi and they know how to do comic books. And I say that from the standpoint of Invincible, The Boys, The Expanse. There's been a few other ones that they've done justice to. So,
Mhm.
so they know how to do something for sure. The whole drama with Rings of Powers aside, they still know what they're doing. So I hope lightning strikes for this particular effort, and I hope we see better of it. I have not personally read this. I've read a number of William Gibson's novels. He is a great sci-fi novel writer, just like Neil Gaiman is. Other folks that we've highlighted. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But
Mhm.
basically, the gist of this is like um, there's a character, and she is in this world like it's very dystopian, very dark. And she is a friggin' whiz when it comes to virtual reality games and how to make them and how to play them or whatever. But she finds herself shifted into the future in like 2070 London, a futuristic version of London that is supposed to be like virtual reality, but it ends up being a little bit more real than she bargains for. And I'll leave it there as a synopsis. Like I don't want to give up way too much, but yeah. Did you hear anything about this at all or have any commentary?
I saw a little bit of the trailer. It looked interesting.
Yeah, I've not seen the
Yeah.
trailer yet on my own. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Over. I have tried William Gibson's stuff. I believe I tried his novel Neuromancer a couple of times, but couldn't get through it. So, but that might have been my just my mindset at that time. So
Did,
I've always
did
been
you
kind of curious about reading him.
did you ever read Snow Crash at all?
No, no.
Okay, just curious, just curious. Yeah, like
Uh,
he is
Heard of it.
uh yeah, he is to check my Stevenson. Okay. I might be thinking who's the author? Neil Stevenson. Never
That's.
mind. All right. There goes me for being dumb. But anyway, William Gibson has a good
Mhm.
grip on that cyber noir kind of
I
cyberpunk
did.
type thing.
I did see Johnny Mnemonic, which is based off of a
Ah,
William Gibson story. the
true. It's true.
the movie doesn't quite hold up. The Your Movie Sucks. I did a kind of a commentary uh takedown of it. He watched it with a few friends. So he's got the whole movie where they commentaried on it on his channel, as well as just a 20-minute kind of highlights of it, and that I would recommend that if you're kind of curious about that. He's usually pretty funny. He usually picks a bad movie to kind of do a funny commentary on it, and those are always entertaining.
Cool. Moving on to I'm not going to rehash this, but the only thing I saw this, and this goes to me. This goes to the fan baiting that we covered several weeks ago. Whereas like there's always going to be a subset of the audience out there that calls out untoward, hateful things. They're always going to be there, but it seems like the studios are wise to that, and they kind of bank on
Mm,
that, and then they kind of leap off of that to have publicity for whatever they're plugging, whatever, for good or for bad, whatever. Whether
mhm,
it's The Little Mermaid, or whether it's Rings of Power, or House of Dragon, or whatever. The thing is that I wanted to highlight about this is the fact that like you know, they say this article and everything else. They say that people are upset about a black person being a vampire or an elf or a dwarf or whatever. Whatever. The thing is that it's funny to me when the thing that is not doing as popular as it should be or as they want it to be. The fact is, like, you see more articles as a trend for this kind of thing versus like when people like it and when they love it and they show up and they watch, nobody says anything. And I say that because like, and again, I kind of called out at the top of the show, you say, not you, but the generic you. You have Rings of Power, and you have the controversy therein, and then you have House of D, and they both, before they even hit the big screen, there was a lot more flack on the side of Rings of Power, I will admit, than House of the Dragons, because, and I was following along. I remember, like, when we started this channel, I would routinely ask you occasionally, "Oh, have you heard about anything of Game of Thrones related?" And like, you hadn't heard anything, I hadn't heard anything. You'd get the occasional article about the pilot being good or bad, and then they would go back to the drawing board or something. They did that for years. But I will say, nobody's talking about this for House of Dragon. Nobody's talking about it for that, but they are continuing to talk about it for, and I don't mean the fans, I mean big media. You see articles like this. This is just a case in point of that. Not, I don't want to get into it too much, but my point stands that when you create something and you let it out, if you know how to do your PR right, you'll let it sit on its own. And if somebody doesn't like it, who gives a crap? You know what I mean? Like whatever. Like, but anyway, this kind of goes back. Like, this is basically a Dear John letter to the fan, saying, we blame you, the fan, because you're being a racist, or whatever. And I reject that. Yes, of course, there's always going to be those people that are like, they're just against, they're the people that you want to avoid in real life. But at the same time, you cannot tell me that there are millions and millions of people out there that get bent out of shape just because the race or the sex of the actor was changed or whatever. That's just not, I just don't believe that. Like, that's just not, you can't tell me that that's true. You can't tell me, you're never going to convince me that that's a thing that exists in real life at scale, because your stuff sucks or it's not up to par, and you pick a fight with the fandom. Like, don't do that. Like, this kind of, like, I guess I said I didn't have a cringe corner, or like I guess this is like a little mini soapbox, but I've said this before, and it's not just me. This side is not original. Like, when you disrespect the fandom, you hobble your ability to attract more people to your content, period. Like, and that's true whether it's Deaf Noodles, he wants to play a game of deception and like play a game and doesn't want to cop to it. You could play into that. You could turn the corner and somewhat apologize or make it right or whatever, and like you could still have, like, the only thing that would prevent you from doing that is like if you come at somebody and you accuse them of something. And this is true later on in the show, like when we kind of cover, it's not really Nerdom, but it covers my point. And I'll just say it now, like the Bros thing. There's a movie that came out a couple weekends ago called Bros, and it's a gay rom-com, and basically the whole blow up was that the main guy, Billy, I can't pronounce his last name, but he basically went on Twitter, and he basically, after the first weekend, like when it flopped, it basically said like, oh, you're homophobic, and if you're straight, and the people that saw it loved it and whatever. And it turns out that that's just not true. Like, that rings hollow. It's the same thing. Don't attack the fans. Like, if you made a turd, you made a turd. Like, you can't control everything. Like, and it's not like that. So anyway, I wrote back into this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a couple of hot takes on. Interview with the Vampire. Interview with the Vampire. I read several of. When I was getting into horror, reading horror, everybody's like, "Oh, you gotta read Anne Rice." Read Interview with the Vampire. It's okay book. Enjoyed it. Read Vampire Lestat. Hated it. Queen of the Dam was okay. The Mummy was so bad, I loved it. That's probably my favorite book of hers. And then I read the first book of her witch series, which was horrible, slog to get through. And I think the last one I read was The Body Thief. At that point, I realized I'm not an Anne Rice fan. And the Interview with the Vampire movie came out. better than the book. Loved it. Perfect adaptation. That's it. We're done. We're done with the Interview of the Vampire. Okay, you got the show. It's not really an adaptation of the book. You've changed completely the character of Lewis, not just his race. You've changed who he is as far as maybe not emotionally, maybe he's the same emotional character, but he's no longer a southern slave owner. He's a black man that owns a bordello, which changes. I think it moves the timeline of events a little ahead. And then the Daniel, it's Interview with the Vampire. You have a reporter that's taking the interview. It's the Daniel guy from the book did interview him back in I forget, in the 70s or whatever, wherever the book takes place. But the Lewis gets upset and takes the manuscripts or the recordings away, so that now it's Daniel 2021. They tie in the pandemic to it or whatever. So it's a completely
Okay.
Daniel's like a completely different character now. In that he's older, and he never became a vampire in the books. He becomes a vampire. So they've made some dramatic changes to the storyline where it's not really a adaptation. It's I guess maybe their take on it, their spin on interviews. So that's fine. I have my adaptation that I love, the original movie with Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Great movie. Like I said, better than the book. Anne Rice, rest in peace. To me, she was a crap writer. I think she was less of she was definitely not a horror writer. Interview with the Vampire kind of touched on that. That book was inspired by her child, rest in peace her too, her child's death, her daughter's death. And I think that with that book from that grief really gave that book a lot of weight. And I don't know if she had something to carry on from that book into the rest of the series, or she branched off in a direction that I couldn't follow as far as the books. I know the books notoriously have very female heavy base of fans. So maybe it's one of those things where they say, well, it's not for you. The more pop phrases nowadays is maybe it's just not for you, which I don't think
Well,
this series is for me.
and that's fair. That's fair. Like I will say that I'm always reading in the background, whether we cover it or not. And I will say that there's like I'll bring up the author here, but vampire related. It's called V Wars. It's kind of like a low key knockoff of World War Z from Mel Gibson's or excuse me, not Mel Gibson, Mel Brooks, Mel Brooks' son. He wrote that, and one of these days we got to cover it, and maybe we will, maybe we won't. But V Wars and Vamp, I need to go back and read Anne Rice's thing, because I've seen the movie. Like one thing that bothers me is like if there's an adjacent book, I really, not to be a completionist or whatever, but I really want to know like if it's really good and it piques my. At the time when I watched Interview with a Vampire, like I was younger and like I watched it, was like, oh, it's cool, it's okay. I really didn't think anything of it. Maybe that's one that we'll cover a little bit later on in the month. Maybe not. But I would like to go back and read the novels and be, figure out what's for me and what, because it could be like Dune. Okay, Dune, the movie came through. My dad said the book was like just big and long, and I kind of never really challenged myself to like read it until the movie came out. And then that's the beautiful thing about these things is, and that's kind of antithetical to what this is about, what this article is about, which is, when you try to put people in boxes like this, like where you list off BS examples of like non-controversies, like nobody in America it really has a problem with a Black Little Mermaid. No, in reality, nobody has a problem with that. Moms and dads don't care. They put on something like the truth is they put on something, whatever it is on Disney, they don't care. They put it on, they play it, whatever. And you know what? It is inclusive from the standpoint. They are correct from one standpoint. It is inclusive. I have seen a lot of, and I have heard from, hey, that's something a little Black girl can look to, and that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. You know what else is a beautiful thing? When you see these things and you find out a movie is based on a novel or a screenplay or something, comic book or manga or whatever, you know what? It causes you to go out and discover more. And that's the beautiful thing about any of this stuff, which is outside of the controversy, the more positive. I'm trying to find a more positive lining for this whole thing, and that is, you hear about it, you go discover it for yourself, and you make your own choice. You go read the book. You don't
Yeah.
take my word for it. Like I am the reading rainbow generation. So don't take my word for it in any of these things. And the thing, like, you have valid criticism. Like, I would love that. Like, that's a great topic to cover later on. But like,
well,
your point is very well taken and very well said. Very well said.
Well, and then my other point is, we took a little break between recordings, and I was looking at Facebook, which I should never do. I always regret once I look at Facebook.
That's why
But
I'm not on there anymore.
Yeah. So you see those hot take memes.
Right.
There was a hot take meme that was like showed some pictures of classic 80s gender mixing people, like culture clubs, Boy George, and you had Grace Jones, and you had Annie Lennox in there, and you say, well, you can't imagine why the 80s, the people back, in the 80s, they had no problems with their gender fluid people, but superstars, but now they're all confused and upset over it. I was like, it's family friendly show, but F you. Because you don't think people were complaining back in the 80s? Come on now. In your classroom in the 80s, you had those 3 or 4 jocks in there that thought they were being funny and ripping up, making some unflattering words for them and whatnot. And the rest of the class rolled their eyes and was like, whatever, I'm going to enjoy my music, whatever. And that's the case now. We're not in the classroom, we're in Twitter and Facebook classroom, and you still have those same 3 or 4 jocks multiplied by America and whoever else is involved with the discussion, saying their stupid comments. They're still saying whatever, and we're all up in arms. Well, a lot of people are up in arms, like, oh, well, I can't believe they said that. I can't. It's like, roll your eyes and move on with your day. And if you play that game, if you play the outrage game, if you feed in and you feed in with this whole culture, and then the news cycle is all about it as well. They're going to inflate the numbers, all the horrible people that there, and all those people saying those worst comments about the Little Mermaid. They're doing it to get a reaction. They're like the stereotypical 3 or 4 jocks in the classroom.
Right.
Half of most of them enjoyed the music anyway, but they were just saying it just to stir up some, being the classic troll, the IRL troll as opposed to the online troll. Come on. If you
Right.
if you set someone down and talk to them, you're gonna get communication going. If you just start throwing up memes and calling people names, you're just gonna get into a fight in the out in the recess. If you talk smack during the classroom, more than likely you're gonna get punched in the recess. So
Right. Yeah, and like the thing is that's funny is that, like, we have movies that really press the edge even today, like Blazing Saddles. I challenge people to go out there and go to YouTube and look up. I just watched one tonight, earlier today, where a black couple watched Blazing Saddles. I'm not going to tell you their opinion of it, but you know what? Newsflash, it wasn't anything near like what this article is. Like where this is like just like outrage and pushing the button and like and cancel. This is the problem that people have today. Like that nobody wants to be called something they're not. And unfortunately, people are called something they're not more often than not, because it's just like it might as well be boy cried wolf. But anyway, I could go on and on about that. But like I reject. I go back to my premise, which is I reject anything I see that is like whatever. So allegedly there was like I'll use the Little Mermaid. Allegedly there's news articles that are written on bull crap, just sheer bull crap. Like a screenshot of like a Facebook group that is a parody that has nothing to do with it. It was like something ridiculous, like Christians against Black Little Mermaid or something like that. It's like, you know what? That's the point, like where the audience is not stupid. When you treat the audience as if they're stupid and you give them dumb exposition and you're dumbing them down over the head with exposition and what the storyline is and who you should be rooting for and what it is an allegory toward or whatever, nobody's into that. What people are into is like they want to see it and they just want to be entertained. At the end of the day, like, so like when you fight with fans and you pick these fights, there's the fact that anybody would pick that fight is it gives you insight into the normies. When they see this stuff, they don't go, oh, I got to check it out to see the controversy. Sure, there's a good chunk of folks that do that, but the vast majority of people, of parents, and I am one, the vast majority of parents, even putting all of my views aside, if I roll into something and I see like it's controversial or whatever, I don't care. Like I'm not gonna. It's just not gonna register. It's just like what are you doing? Like anyway,
Well,
you said it much better than I did.
Right. How effective was calling the guy a poopy pants in the class, at recess. Yeah, did that win you win the debate, or did he walk off and not talk to you ever again? That's basically, and that's what's happening here.
I think that it shows that at a deeper level, and this cuts across like all kinds of things. It cuts across class, it cuts across politics. When you treat the audiences as they're stupid, you get exactly whatever you think you put into it, and it never you never get any good profit from it ever. And that's true across the board.
I'm calling it right here. I'm calling it the poopy pants culture.
I love it. No, that's what it is. You know what? I put my pants on. I do poopy pants. Let's go change you. I don't want to change my poopy pants. I want to stay in the sandbox and keep throwing sand. Anyway, going on. Sorry. Okay. More positive things, more positive news. And I wish I could fix this, but we'll go with it. Whatever. Star Trek. And if anybody cares to know, my browser that I use is Microsoft Edge. I either use this one or I use Canary. But this is just the mainline version with my own, bits and pieces added on, which you should do no matter what. Cybersecurity, always put an ad blocker on there. Cybersecurity, always have a password manager, but that's a different, that's a whole different thing. Anyway, the point being is this is announced. There's going to be a new comic book series by IDW, I believe. Yeah, IDW Publishing, Star Trek-Defiant. Basically, the gist is that it's Worf, and he commandeers, he steals the Defiant, and he has Spock and some other name brand characters in defiance of Captain Sisko. And one of the ones that I'm really fascinated about that I have not heard anything about, which is at the end of spoiler alert, although it's like more than 20, 30 years old at this point, but in Voyager, B'Elanna Torres, which is the half Klingon, half human hybrid character, she marries Tom Paris. And apparently in this thing, Tom Paris is on the other ship that is supposed, like, I think, chasing them, whereas Torres goes with Worf, and excuse me, B'Elanna Torres, Spock, Ro Lauren, which is another one that was the Bajor. God. Anyway, she is like a minor character from Deep Space Nine, like where she was on, and I think even Enterprise or Next Generation for a little bit here and there, but like she was really on Deep Space Nine, and Ro Lauren and Lore, which I'm not familiar with, like what version of Lore is into this, but like the time frame is roughly sometime around Deep Space Nine era, Dominion War, that sort of thing. I think it's after, quite a bit after. But this is just kind of like a gut check on that series. And so surprisingly, I will be anxiously waiting to see if this rolls out and if it's any good. I think it will be. We'll see.
Well,
This is kind of rare. Oh, go ahead.
It's written by Christopher Cantwell.
Yep. Well,
if you're if you're a fan of our channel, he's wrote the showrunner for *Halt and Catch Fire*, the TV show, and he's been working with Marvel. He wrote acclaimed Doctor Doom series, as well as he did he's on Iron Man, and he's getting ready to start a Namor, the Submariner comic as well. So yeah, he's the new hotness as far as being a comic book writer, and I think he has a series that he's doing independently as well. So yeah, he's got a lot of fires going on in the comic book sphere. So yeah, he's been doing some great work. He's transitioned from TV writing to comic book writing pretty well. So yeah, I would say the chances of this being pretty decent are pretty good.
Yeah, I hope so, but we'll find out, and I will definitely be bringing my highlights therein to God bless Thomas, because he is our comic book heart and soul, and he he's definitely carried the bag for a long time. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it.
A lot of people are ringing doom and gloom for current day comic books, and they spotlight the horrendously bad examples are currently being published. I think there's always been some bad comic books.
Sure.
The fact that you take current day narratives and stream a little storyline saying this is what's happening to comic books. I think there's always going to be bad storylines just because you're pushing out so much content. There's still a lot of decent and very good content that's out there, and I'm actively reading and will recommend that on this channel.
Indeed. Yeah. And just to kind of be bad cop here for a little bit, if you got a problem with like a modern Star Trek storyline with Worf, and you say, oh, you would never do that. No, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about the lore, because Worf was very much his own character in TNG. We barely got to see that develop in our coverage of the first season, but later on, he is definitely his own character. And then he transitioned from Next Generation to DS9, and he definitely was his own character there. Deep Space Nine, I will argue, is definitely the penultimate, like the definitive version of, like, I guess maybe the analog. Well, we're yet to find out, but like it sounds like as Andor is to Star Wars, and how people say it's not Star Wars or whatever, DS9 is to Star Trek. because they did it a different way. They did it a slightly same thing for Stargate. You had Stargate Atlantis, but then you had Stargate Atlantis or excuse me, can't Universe. And then, oh, that's not Stargate, blah blah blah. Well, you know what? Be quiet. Why don't you be quiet and like let it happen and like see? Then we'll be the judge. But we'll see. But hope springs eternal. Moving on. I believe this is a new. We don't cover this too much. I believe this is a brand new video game that's going to be coming out. I don't know anything about this, but it sounds intriguing. It sounds a lot along the lines of like what Bethesda is putting out, which is supposed to come out soon with their, I think Starfield is what they call it, but this is like its own thing. I saw this and like I saw the little screenshots here, and there's enough there for me to be intrigued and like say, hey man, I don't want to hype this at all, but I kind of already am because I'm talking about it. But we'll see what happens. But we'll see. It just sounds like it's just like, well, this thing scratch that old sci-fi itch. Like, yeah, that is a true statement. Like, I'll let the reader read their thing, but like we'll see. I really hope it's a great one.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Or as my dad used to call it, Sci-Fi. that Sci-Fi channel, they got that movie you might like on there. Okay,
awesome.
Dad, I'll check out Sci-Fi.
yeah, we'll see. Like we very rarely cover video game. We covered the Elden Rings thing or whatever it was. Fucking I'm sure.
Yeah, because
butchering
we're such elite players and such gamers. We don't even have to talk about it. We're that good.
Yeah, there's a YouTube comic or TikTok comic comedian Andrew Russo, and basically he has a thing like where he's like, the skit is that his online presence gets compromised, and they're like Facebook, Twitter. He's like, oh, and he's like a candidate running for something. And he's like, oh, who cares? And they're like, oh, but sir, they got your Xbox live game chats and voice memos, and he's like, I'm gonna be honest, like I was one of those hardcore gamers back in the day on Xbox Live, like where on purpose they had it up or down rating, and if you got voted up, people would like recommend you, but like I did the opposite, like on purpose, because it was just my gaming style coming from SOCOM, and that's a whole other negative thing or whatever. But like I try to get like negative rating because I didn't want to play with anybody that to me it was like narrowing the field to like where I could just play with people who were serious. Like, because when I would get on, I worked at the time, I had a kid. If I got on it like working overnight or whatever hour I got on, I just want to play. I don't want to screw around with like whatever, and it worked. So anyway, the joke being that like your gamer chats are like super toxic.
Yeah. Well, like I said, whenever someone says a spicy word online, they call it gamer words. So, but yeah, and you can take that however you want. But yeah, I'm such a elite gamer that my first thing when I get a game, I was like, does it have an easy mode? So
I'm right there with you. Although I will say my gamer tag is fucking Jewish, so make that of it as you will. So when I do play, which is not hardly any ever, I'm not a gamer. I do not claim to be a gamer, but I do like to keep an eye out. And I use my brother, my cousin, and my best friend as like bellwethers for like what's out there in gaming. Should I care? Should I not care? Anyway, I think this is one to pay attention to, and I wish the best because, oh man, I'd love to play a game like where you can just go into it and enjoy the sci-fi. So
yeah, I'm gonna say this. I don't know where I would put this otherwise. Is I was getting my laptop back up and getting Steam on it and loading up games, And for some reason, when I tried to log into Grand Theft Auto 5 or any of my other Rockstar games, it was coming up with it was trying to verify some email address I didn't recognize. So I don't know if it got hacked or what, or how that happened. But
Yeah.
I wrote to Steam first, and they're like, "Not my problem.
Right.
It's Rockstar." So I hit up Rockstar, and through various people, they who had very English names, but wrote in somewhat broken English. But but they said, okay, well, give me all of this, and
India.
yeah, yeah, screenshots of all of this, and so I gave them a screenshot of my email receipt and some of the stuff from Steam, as far as, I guess the various barcodes and whatnot. And within a couple of days, I had it all back up and running. So
Good.
kudos to Rockstar. They bailed me out, and I could play as on my Grand Theft Auto 5 and go around killing people now. So there's that.
It's funny you say that, because like I was talking to my son the other day. I was like, Grand Theft Auto is like where it's very unique. It's amazing that somebody has wrote an article about how intergenerational Grand Theft Auto 5 is, because it really is. I still play occasionally, like if I want to like kind of scratch that gamer itch. Honestly, like what I do is like what you were saying. I fire up Grand Theft Auto, PC, Xbox, whatever. I don't think I have PlayStation set up right now, but I just want to play it. I just want to go in like I play like Terminator mode, like where you 5 stars and you try to evade it or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it's just that's the whole point of escapism anyway. But
Right.
indeed.
Yep.
And to note, a few weeks ago, Rockstar was hacked, and the hacker released a bunch of game footage and stills of Grand Theft Auto 6. And then Rockstar quickly filed for, like DMCA takedowns and whatever, because it's their IP and whatever. So that did happen. Like we don't have an article up covering that, but like just to kind of preface what you were saying,
And
current events.
they arrested a teenager in UK.
Did they
Which
really? I did not know that.
Yep.
I did not know. Okay, that's okay. Well, you play with fire. Well, don't play with matches. Don't play with matches, Junior. Script Kitty.
It did confirm that it's looks like it's going to take place in Vice City, and the rumors that you were going to have a hot Latino woman as one of the protagonists was confirmed. Gasp, horror, female character. Oh my god. Yeah, whatever. Next.
Yeah, hot like a tamale. Anyway, we'll move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I subconsciously kind of channeled that. All right, yeah.
You know what? I'll give it to the right and to the left. Like Alex Stein said, hot like a tamale, and Jill Biden said breakfast tacos. So whatever, Hispanics, Latinos, like you can reduce them to a object, which is bull crap. Anyway, House of the Dragon success had Amazon's quote S-ton in their pants over Rings of Power worry. This basically just goes to like what I covered. Like we won't talk too much about this, but like the Hollywood Reporter, and I'll have the links in the description down below. That basically they covered this whole thing as it happened, and basically they were worried about the success of House of the Dragon. So even though like you look at Nielsen and you see like the ratings or whatever, and they're apples to oranges, it's more like apples to apples, because again, and I say that because like at the top of the show, and I won't rehash this whole thing, but basically when you don't let your content speak for itself, if you try to come in and fill the gap, you're going to lose. You're going to lose every single time. And that's related to Rings of Power and the PR around that. I have no doubt that it's a great show, and we'll see what happens after 5 years or whatever, because the one thing that I will fault the hate watchers on is that they're in the now. Okay, 2 years from now, whatever they're saying, is it relevant? And most often, more often than not, it's not. So that's why you have to kind of pull back and be like, okay, well, you say you don't like this, but let's see where it goes. Anyway, that's what I would say in defense of Rings of Power over 5 seasons, because I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. I mean,
and how many shows did people recommend? Go, oh well, the first season is not really good, but once you get
all the
to
time,
season 3, it's really good.
all the time.
Yes.
Well, on that topic, okay, like coming from personal experience. So you saw earlier in the year we covered your first watch through of The Next Generation, right? So
yeah.
based on that, would you have continued watching it from its first season? Just honestly, like if you were back then, like would you have continued to see? Like, would you have given it a chance back then? Would you say?
Well, the characters kind of grew on me, so back then there wasn't a whole lot to watch, so yeah.
Right.
Probably
But back then, but my point being, back then the answer was no. You weren't interested. So, that's valid.
Well,
that's totally valid.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and I didn't there was an article that I saw that I didn't bring over to us, but from that it said the numbers for the first 1 or 2 episodes of Rings of Power outperformed the House of Dragons premiere.
That's what I heard too.
Which doesn't indicate longevity. I mean, they haven't released the numbers for after episode 2 for Rings of Power, and that may be because they're not that good. I don't know. But yeah, so we'll see. And then, but as far as we know, the numbers for House of Dragons has risen. So yeah, it could be a thing where one rises and one falls, but whatever. And again, I'm not never been a numbers guy. From the longest time, no one liked what I liked. So when I'd get a TV show that I really liked, like Twin Peaks, I knew it was going to get canceled eventually because there's no way that was going to last. So
you are OG for that. I absolutely believe that for sure.
Yeah. So when a show survived for me, I was always ecstatic. So yeah, it's so yeah, I mean it is neither here nor there as far as numbers for me. And like I said, time will tell things having staying power. But yeah, I mean I really enjoy House of the Dragons. It's the best written show that I'm currently watching, and Rings of Power again is like a mediocre show that I don't mind watching. I don't pay real close attention to it, but yeah, it's I'll say this, it's better than She-Hulk. She-Hulk's we're talking about poopy pants and a steaming pile of garbage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm gonna be catching up on House of Dragon sooner than later, but this just goes back to you want to be most generous, most positive about it, which I think is important to do. Not quite benefit of the doubt, but like let's look at things from the sunny side out, right? So okay, Rings of Power, okay, whatever. That what? There is nothing written to say that they won't hit their mark sooner or later, whatever. But just because House of Dragon hit their mark right away and they continued on doesn't mean that Rings of Power is garbage or whatever.
Or that the quality of House of Dragon keep going.
Right, whatever. Yeah, I mean, there was a change out there. There was like a time shift. I heard a little quibble about it, but really the bigger point that I want to make about this is that when you attack the fans, when you make that your central tenet to defend whatever the hell you created, you're going to lose every single time. Just stop. Amazon Prime, if you could hear me, nobody's going to hear me, but like Jeff Bezos or Selkie or the showrunners, like, dudes, just stop. Just stop. You cannot control what other people say. And it's surprising to me that you would attempt to do so, whether it's through ratings or whatever, shenanigans over that. And that goes back to what you were saying about numbers. You've never been a numbers guy. And for the most part, I am not. as well. No, nobody is going to IMDb.com or Rotten Tomatoes or whatever and being like, oh, I really want to watch something. And then they see the rating and they're like, you know what? I'm not going to watch it because nobody does that.
Mm-hmm.
No real human beings do that. Like they say, here's how it happens. You have a Friday night, you're with your friends, whatever, your family, whatever, you want to watch whatever. You're like, hey, what should we watch? Somebody's going to say, hey, I heard this or I heard that. And they're going to be like, okay, well, let's check it out. And that's how they discover it. And then if it's good, they watch more. If it's not, they don't. That's it.
Yeah.
I wish they would get with that program because Amazon Prime does know how to put on very good things. And you're right. Yeah. We'll see. Who knows? Season 2 could, who knows? Whatever. Who knows? But anyway, this kind of goes into the territory that we kind of sort of covered. I was very spicy on my coverage last week, which is a Devil feature this week. But this basically kind of goes into like a takedown of how it happened by this website, and it's basically they circle around it. They didn't glom onto the fan baiting, but this is a case in point to fan baiting. You picked a fight, Frascurian. You picked a fight with the fans, and then not only did the C-suite for G4 double down on it, but they said, look, if you don't like it, don't watch it. And I can't remember the guy's name, but he put that tweet out and people were like, okay. And here we are,
Yep.
10 months later. And where's G4? Gone.
Yep.
Gone.
And it's like the Sandman TV series. The creator Neil Gaiman famously got in a fights with the fans over their hesitation on their kind of gripes of the show. And I don't know if that correspond with the viewership, but Netflix hasn't said they're renewing it yet. And it's been several weeks, and the fact that it was number one on Netflix for a little while, top rated show. You would think they would have greenlighted it by now. I don't think
season 2. Right? You're talking about season 2, right?
Right. Season 2 of the Stand. Right. So I think at this point they're probably going to cancel it. The first season's really good. But yeah, they did a disservice by the way they promoted it.
I would actually argue that they're going to do season 2, and I have no basis for that, just my opinion. But I would say that this thing is like, and this kind of goes, but what you're saying, point, whether they do or not, whatever. You're probably right. They probably won't. But
well, the thing is that one of the reasons why they haven't, or one of their excuses why they haven't renewed it yet, is that people weren't binge watching it, which Netflix was trying to get away from binge watching and get people to watch it episode by episode, spacing it out, which evidently is what people are doing with Sandman. So the whole reasoning doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, whatever. I think it's all smoke and mirrors until we know for sure, because a lot of the numbers aren't being told to us because it's all behind closed doors.
Well, and I'll say this, and this just goes back to what I've been saying along. Okay, the fact of the matter is, if you pick a fight with the fans, and you have that be your Armageddon line, so to speak, like you're never, like, this is the point of no return, and like, we just can't. Moral outrage, and these people, these horrible, hateful people are coming and attacking this because of this or that, surface level things that like are truly horrific for people to be divided on, race or gender or whatever, sexual orientation, all the truly bad things in society that we all despise. Okay, you have that, but the thing is, but if you really want to make a difference, and nobody cares about it unless it lasts. Okay, you have to earn season 2. You have to earn season 3. You have to earn season 4. If you're still around and it truly is whatever, people will figure that out. Again, this goes back to how you approach. Whenever you pick a fight with the fandom, the media company will always lose. Period. And I being bad cop, wear my bad cop hat. I defy somebody to tell me or show me an example where that's not true. Where and again, like, this is a very unique age that we're in, like, where fan baiting is a thing, and I totally believe that it is, because, like, you've seen it, I've seen it, you've seen the shredding of property, intellectual IP that's been shredded to the point to, like, where, bad or good, people aren't showing up for it. Like, whether it's truly bad or content wise, or whether it's just like just a thumb in the nose of the fans, point blank, because, like, well, you're just not coming along with modern times or whatever. Whether that's true or not is whether you're still making it, like, 10 years from now, are we going to be talking about Disney Star Wars? Or are we going to be talking about the downfall? Or are we going to be talking about Disney Marvel? I will say one thing: 10 years from now, we will come back and this will be a minor point in time, like, where we'll say this G4 is a prime example of picking a fight with the fans and making things up. It's one thing when you're grounded, when you have some truth on your side, it's one thing. But when you have no truth on your side and you're just grinding out propaganda, propaganda that has no grounding in truth will die. It'll die. This is a case in point of that. And this is like a more philosophical communication about mass communications and information technology and all this and that. Anyway, whatever. I got to move on. So, but related to that, along in the real world, where it comes to funny things, New York Times wrote about how this is just like a case in point where, like, I read this. I read their brief to the Supreme Court, and it's legitimately, go to page 2, read it, at least give it to page 2, and you'll read this. This was literally filed with the Supreme Court from the Onion, and I have a deep love and appreciation for the Onion because I grew up in Wisconsin in my teenage years, and my dad took me down to Madison before they were bought out by the big Omnicorp, whatever. I'm kind of joking with that. Like, they use Omnicorp as their thing sometimes, but the Onion is strictly a parody newspaper that used to be published, and then it became a online presence. And I was there, like, they were there from the beginning of the internet until now, and they always put out like these farcical things. But anyway, this in the real world in 2016, a guy was arrested for making a parody website on Facebook of his local police folks. He was arrested and was charged, and then later on it progressed and it was dropped because it was just bullcrap. But that there was enough of the legal matter to move on to the Supreme Court to really truly put a definitive edge on, like, this is free speech, and to make a parody site of whatever, you can do that. So at the end of the day, this is just kind of funny, novel to me, where it's very rare where we can talk about the Supreme Court and what we cover and what we do or whatever. But this could be extrapolated to parodying Disney or Marvel or Warner Brothers or Batman or whatever. And you have to be careful with these things because this is I am a free speech maximalist, and I know you are too. Like, where you have to be able to express yourself, and that goes to, like, a content creator. It's the very root of everything we cover, really. But I just wanted to put this in here, like, to kind of like, this is the boring whatever part of the thing, like, where this stuff is important. This is really important to be able to express yourself as an artist as you wish. And we always celebrate the content creators. Absolutely. Chris Cantwell, we just covered. He's a big one. But we covered Joe. We had a direct interview with him, the author that you grew up, that you adored, and we're a big fan of. Like, that's important. We can't lose that. We can't lose that freedom ever, ever. Anyway, you have anything to add on that?
No, I think you covered it pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, this is just kind of rolling through this. We're gonna cover this really quick. This goes into the to the tagline tonight of like, don't attack the fans. There's this movie, Bros. It bombed. It was made budget of 22 million and promotional value of like 30 million, and it got less than 5 million at the box office its first weekend. And the second, I've heard things. What I've seen like for the box office takes for this weekend hasn't even shown up. So what do you think's going to happen when you attack the fans and you call everybody a homophobe or whatever, or transphobe or a bigot or a racist or whatever? You know, like, well, maybe you should look in the mirror and ask, well, maybe I made something that wasn't that funny.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I listened to a little bit of Chris Gore said he published Film Threat magazine, and now he has the Film Threat website and channel on YouTube. He's about the same age as me, maybe a little older. Yeah, we grew up in the same environment. We both were heavily into independent movies. A lot of them were gay centric. You go and watch The Living End and Doom Generation, which both movies that I loved and were into. Tell me I'm homophobic. But yeah, it's sort of like this movie, Bros. It just appealed to people. You try to make a big budget. You know, if you'd made it a small budget indie movie, if it made I think it made 5 million over the weekend. If it was like a small movie that was produced with $1 million, that would have been a successful independent movie. You're just trying to shoot higher than what the movie would have brought in. And he, of course, said that he went to a theater in California, and I forget what part of California, but you know, if it was going to hit a gay audience and pull them in, the theater should have been packed, but he said it was very sparse, didn't have many people in it. So you know, it didn't pull in the straight people, didn't pull in the gay people either, as
Right.
far as what he could tell. And he has a gay person on his staff, and he asked him if he was going to watch it and review it. He said no. He said that it just looked stupid, and that it was stereotyping gay people, and that
Right.
he had no interest in seeing it. So yeah, I think there's something to be said for tone and how you approach your fans, and also from what I could see, I mean, it seemed like your typical stupid rom-com, which I'm not into anyway. And
Right.
I think Midnight Edge said that they made a point of saying that straight guys don't go to rom-coms anyway.
Anyway,
It's the women that normally goes to rom-coms, and they're the ones that pull their friends along to watch it. So and then so it's about a gay male couple, and so you know, a lot of straight women probably aren't interested in that. So you're really banking on the gay audience
right.
or the LGBTQ plus
Right.
community to really pull it in. And that's again, according to the population. I keep hearing varying percentages, but it's a relatively small portion of the population. So
Right.
you're targeting them, and then if it doesn't land with them either, you're left with with a flop.
Yep.
And you could blame the middle America for being homophobic all you want, but if you bring a good quality product, they're still gonna come. And
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And the only thing, normally this would be a little bit outside of our purview for Nerdom and whatnot.
And I have one last thing. If we're so homophobic, why was Brokeback Mountain and the Birdcage such successes?
Yep, I was just about to bring that up. Yep,
Lead
exactly.
into it.
Yep, the fact that you
And why is John Waters household name?
Right. Well, and this goes back to the fact of like you, Billy, who made this film, who made the tweets, you are the ones that are causing us to talk about these things, and like the straights liked it, or the straights didn't like it, or the gays liked it, or the gays didn't like it. America is not like that. That's not how it works. Stop attacking the fans. This is a case in point of just what I've been talking about for like the last couple weeks or a few weeks, whatever, like my spiel. But you're right. You're absolutely right. Birdcage, Brokeback Mountain. There's a host of other gay films and plays, and it's infinite. Like no, it's the fact that you made a turd or whatever, and people don't like it, and they're not showing up. And even if you did make it for the gay audience, like you said, in Midnight's Edge, I saw the same thing as you. He made the example of, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, but he basically said, somebody said that, like, look, if you make a film for Latinos only, okay, that means that you need every single Latino in America to show up to buy a ticket to your show. And if you bank on that, it's not going to work. You have to have some kind of like a tie into a general audience or demographic, whatever it is, like wider than like these artificially divvied up. Like it just goes. Anyway, we can move on. Like I don't want to spend too much time on it. But you hit the nail on the head with Birdcage, Brokeback Mountain. You do not get to say that America is ist or is that or whatever. Like this just doesn't fly. And it just makes him look stupid for what his words. Like I'm full definitely advocate for freedom of speech, because if you have a good argument or a good criticism, again, just like good content, just like a good film or a good enough film, even an okay film, people will show up to watch it. They don't need to be told, beat over the head, oh, you're this or that. No, I don't think so, buddy. Anyway, moving on. NYC. So this is the mapping out of the newest comic books coming out for phase whatever.
Well, if you
Marvel.
if you remember back in the day, Marvel would have their big events like
Right.
X-Men Inferno and X-Men what was the one with Scarlet Witch?
House of M.
Half of them, yeah. So yeah, they used to have them one a year. It looks like we have, let's see, for 2003 we got 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, it's about 4 a year. So at the end of this year, we're finishing up the big Axe big crossover with Avengers, X-Men, and the Eternals. We'll say we've got a celestial eternal god that's passing judgment on the whole entire earth. We'll see if we survive that. If we survive that, we're going into Invincible, which culminates in the end of the 5-year run of Jason Aaron. And so yeah, I've been enjoying the big verse kind of mashup that he's been doing with the Avengers. So it'll be interesting to see how they play that out. And then we have Dark Web at the very end of the year, not to be confused with your cyber hacking and online hitman hiring that the Mike's been doing on the side. But this Dark Web is about the clones, Madeline Pryor and the Peter Parker clone Ben Reilly. They team up because they've been spurned, and they're going against Spider-Man and the X-Men, which is all kind of came to a boil from the Inferno, which that could be entertaining. I know they're hinting at Norman Osborn going back to being bad. And then next year we have Sins of Sinister, which they've been really kind of stirring him up as a big player in the current storylines. So it'll be interesting to see how it comes out.
I
And then
I really miss Mr. Sinister and the X-Men. Like I really miss that.
yeah,
He's such a great friggin' villain in my
yeah,
in the comics. In my
yeah,
opinion. Like,
yeah,
growing up.
yeah, and lately he's playing the role of the Joker within the
Okay.
X-Men universe, where he's sort of he's he's pretending to be on their side, but he's not really. But yeah, he's sort of playing both sides, and not really doing a good job on either front of that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. He's been kind of a very interesting guy. Like he's been spotlighted in Immortal X-Men, his exploits. So yeah, if you've been reading that one, I think it's gonna kind of spring from there. And then haven't been reading Captain America, but he's got a big crossover event called Cold War, which I'll probably mostly step out from. And then to end out the year, we got Summer of Symbiotes. Looks like it'll be a Venom Carnage mashup. And then at the end of the year, we got Fall of X of next year, which I guess may bring the whole Jonathan Hickman's run. You know, he's already left the book, but you know, he started a big storyline with Krakoa, so maybe this will bring the end to Krakoa.
Do you think the Summer of Symbiotes will be as big or as popular as like the Summer of '93 and like the original Venom Carnage arc, or do you not know yet?
I'm not sure. Yeah, like they did have like a previously a big Venom event. I forget what it's called. Something Carnage. But yeah. And that one was entertaining. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I collect both Venom and Carnage. So yeah, both have good writers on it. Ram V has been working on those, so and he's a quality writer. He's
Yeah,
also
and you
writing either Batman or Detective Comics. I forget which he's doing great on that too.
awesome. All right,
Mhm.
moving on. Disney's. We covered Planet of the Apes quite a bit, probably the first part of our first year here,
Yeah.
and I'm excited for this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think well the only problems we might have is that they're kind of, since it's Disney now, they're like softening the edges a little. They don't have the same creative team. They've got a different guy playing Caesar. They no longer have what's his name
No.
in there. So yeah, it'll be interesting. The concept art for Kingdom of Planet Apes looks pretty cool. So we'll see. Yeah, I got high hopes for it. Definitely. I'm not gonna disperse it until we
Oh, I'm gonna.
see.
I will
And
watch it for sure, whether it's bad or good or what. I know you will too, but for sure.
and thank God we don't have to worry about or they'll have alarming news articles about the color of the ape's fur. There'll be no no disgruntled people or supposed disgruntled people over over but yeah, we'll see.
Oh, yeah, we'll see. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll wait until
uh
they roll up on it, and hopefully they
yeah,
just. Yeah. Anyway.
yeah, yeah, and at
So
the bottom
what's.
uh,
Yeah. Go
uh
ahead.
oh, I was going to say at the bottom of the article, previous one, it looked like Marvel's going to do a Planet of the Apes comic book series as well, so it could be interesting. But yeah, the I just glanced at that there at the
This one.
bottom. Uh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so it looks like
All
next
right.
year, I guess, to correspond with the release of the movie. We'll
All
see.
right. Indeed.
Yeah, it all depends on who they get to write and draw it. You know, if you get some quality people in there, you'll have a quality product. If you don't, you don't.
Indeed.
You can't just sell it on the on the name alone. So yeah, in the next Yeah, it's got some cool art for the cover anyway.
Yeah, it does for sure. Yeah. Cool. I'm not gonna click. No, I'm not gonna. No. Get real. Get real. Get real. Get real. Anyway, go. What's this one about?
That one, it's about the one of the showrunners and executive producers at Miguel Sapochnik is stepping down. So they still have the one other showrunner, Ryan Condal. So I guess I'm kind of curious how much influence or how much of a story lead each one of them had. So the fact that one of the and there is co-showrunners, so be interesting since they're going to go to just one showrunner. How much of the writing was dependent upon one or the other. That'd be kind of interesting. I know. I think this is the second producer, executive producer, to have stepped down from the show. So I don't know what exactly is going on. The article doesn't really say too much, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's a cause for alarm or not.
Well, I think it can go along the lines of that new Hollywood Reporter article also said that the two folks that are making Rings of Power, they were recommended by J.J. Abrams. So I'm sure this is along the same lines, which is like you get your name out there, you get more cred, you get more responsibility, and then you get handed something, and whether you make it, whatever. So yeah, absolutely. Like maybe loosely to pay attention to the radar for these folks, the folks that stepped away. Maybe they're there. My understanding is that the Amazon Prime, from the Selkie article that I read, was that Conan the Barbarian was going to be made by the folks that they were initially looking at for Rings of Power, but they are not for Rings of Power. Excuse me, that's not Amazon Prime was going to greenlight a Conan thing, and the folks that were going to head that up are the ones that ended up doing House of the Dragon. So Amazon Prime's lost. So we'll see. As long as it brings us more good entertainment, I'm down for it. So whatever happens, happens. So
yeah. The Amazon Prime, they nixed Conan and greenlit Wheel of Time because it was more female centric, and see how well has anyone really been talking about that one?
Yeah, whatever. It is what it is. Like I don't even have to say anything. We're not talking about it. So whatever. Yeah. And it's not just because we are men. Whatever. But that's kind of bad cop poke the bear a little bit.
Inherently toxics, evidently.
Yeah. Call me whatever you want, because I'll make sure you own it in the end. Anyway, internet historian. So
there was an article I had the Takashi Miike.
Oh yeah, Takashi. Yeah, what happened? Hold on. Let me find that guy. Yep, there we go. Sorry, that was my fault.
Yeah, no, he's got a Disney show coming up. Cool. Disney Plus. He's we reviewed one of his movies, Aichi the Killer. Yeah, when you have Aichi the Killer, we think of Aichi the Killer, we think Disney, right? So he has done some family centric movies. He's very versatile, but sounds like this one's a little bit more spicy. But yeah. Now the thing is, overseas they don't have Hulu, and Disney owns both, or has majority ownership of Hulu, and they own Disney Plus. So they've split their stuff for the most part in America between Disney Plus, and they put the more spicy content on Hulu. So I imagine so that you could overseas you could watch most like the new Hellraiser movie on Disney Plus. Whereas you're going to watch this show overseas on Disney Plus. In America, I'm sure this Takashi Miike, if it does come over, which I hope it does, this series comes over, it'll be on Hulu. So
Indeed.
we won't see it on Disney, but I am excited about this. I really want to see it, and hopefully I'm pretty sure it'll come to Hulu.
Yeah, this quote here kind of captures it. That looks very intriguing, very interesting way to approach things, and I big fan. So
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad, we'll definitely be covering it later on.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. Hopefully they don't screw it up and cancel it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, I don't think you have it, but I did I did want to mention the Bruce Willis. He's sold his digital rights to a company so that they can digitally use him. Oh yeah, there you go. To deep fake his deep fake rights to use future movies. I think since this article has come out, there's like Bruce Willis has come out and said that he didn't do it.
Yeah, there's counter articles that I've seen about like he didn't do that or whatever. Like who knows? Who knows?
But I think this is something to come in the future, as far as something that people will work out, probably maybe work out in their will or whatever, as far as whether or not they allow for their image to be used for deep fakes, because it's just gonna get better and better. So you'll have the future actors acting on ad infinitum. So yeah, it's no telling what's gonna end up going. And
Yeah,
then
it sounds like this company, Deep Cake, basically got the green light for like one project, and maybe their PR people are a little bit more optimistic and ambitious and said something that wasn't true.
yeah,
And then caused him to come out and say, "No, I didn't do that."
Yeah, and of course, no disrespect to Bruce Willis, but with his element, he may not remember everything as correctly as he once did. So who knows? But yeah, it's if contracts have been signed, I mean, whatever the contract says is what's what it is.
Yeah.
And then if not, then the courts will decide it. But yeah, so I just wanted to point that out. It's kind of interesting. We'll probably see more of this kind of thing in the future.
We already, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and the fans are on Bruce Willis' side for sure. And Bruce Willis, we just wish you the best, and we we just want to see you, however we can get you, and so long as it coincides with your wishes, so be it. If not, screw them. Like you said, the courts will decide. So
yeah, and then I guess we're segueing over to recommendations. I was going to mention Werewolves by at Night, the new thing on Disney Plus. It's not a series, it's just a special on Disney. It's an hour long. It features the werewolf, Jack Russell from the comic book, and it also has a surprise appearance by Man-Thing, which is a lesser known. He's sort of a Marvel's version of the Swamp Thing, but the Man-Thing, he feeds on people's fear. This is sort of a kind of a parody in some sense of a classic, maybe Universal horror movie back in the day. It's shot all in pretty much black and white. There is some little bit of color. I won't no spoilers, but yeah, it even has the little cigarette burns. You remember those back in the day that would tell you when the projectionist to switch over to the other projector. And if you want more information about cigarette burns, Tyler Durden goes into further detail in Fight Club, so you could maybe check out that. But of course, this I'm sure shot on digital, and that was all that's there as little Easter eggs for those that are in the know. But yeah, It was fun. It was silly and funny, and you had your Elsa Bloodstone, the female person that can, I don't know if she has superpowers or not, but she was kicking a lot of ass as a Marvel Superwoman will do, and she got the best of those men. But but yeah, it was fun. The Jack Russell, the guy portraying Jack Russell as the werewolf, was pretty fun. And Man Thing, when they went more of a humorous slant for him as opposed to the dark kind of cryptic slant that is normally taken with the character in a comic book. But I'm hoping for a werewolf, Man Thing, Howard the Duck team up in the future, if there's any chance of it. But yeah, it's a fun little movie for Halloween. You could watch it with your kids. There is a lot of bloodshed towards the end, but it's all in black and white, so it doesn't it's not too gruesome. But yeah, just a little warning for if your kid doesn't like scary things. This does get a little scary at the end when the werewolf shows up.
Indeed. Very cool. Very cool. Moving on. You had what your recommendations for YouTube? You want to cover this one or the other one first?
Oh, the recommendation is Internet Historian.
Yes.
He's you can tell he's a bit of a cheerful guy. He's got a lot of stories, and you can tell each of his videos are in the millions. And yeah, he did good kind of do a two-part saga about the big virus back in the day a couple of years ago. So that was very entertaining. Everything he covers is done very humorously. The latest one is about a man that gets trapped in the cave back in the early 1900s, and it's very entertaining. He lists several different YouTube celebrities, including Rusty Cage. It's definitely worth a watch. If you kind of skip through it, you could tell he does his own little animations with you could hit play. They won't strike us on it. Yeah, but but yeah, it's it's fun because he does it kind of animated instead of just telling the story, so that it it gives a little bit more character. And I think the guy, the internet historian's from Australia, so he has a bit of an accent that kind of gives a gives a little flavor to it. But yeah, it's I this is the latest one. I just watched it recently, and it was very fun. And yeah, with everything he does, even though it's funny and played up for laughs, you do learn something. There is a bit of a history here, a history lesson that's told in an entertaining way. And I think history can be really entertaining. I know a lot of people don't like history because it's taught in schools, and it's taught very dryly, and it's more about dates and numbers and stuff like that that doesn't really matter. When you get into college and whenever you actually dig into history, it's less about time periods and this date and that date, but it's about the people and the motivations behind the people and why things happened, and kind of analyzing that. And the analyzer's perspective on what went on does play a part of it as well. So that's why our opinion and what really happened and what it means as far as history is kind of re-examined every decade or ever so often. But this little story about a man that gets trapped down in a cave. Really, starts off very small with just the guy getting trapped down there, and the little politics of that community. And as the community interest grows beyond the community up until it latches upon the whole of America, everybody was interested in this guy stuck in the cave and how are they getting him out, and all these conspiracy theories. It's sort of it's kind of a deep dive into the history of mobs and how mobs even exist today, and on Twitter with Twitter mobs and whatnot. So yeah, there's sort of parallels you could pull from this little story to today, and see the how humans aren't much different from between that time and now. It's just a matter of technology and how we manipulate it. But humans are still human, and they still act like humans.
Oh, that's very true. Very true. Moving on. Boog, 2988.
Boogie 2988.
Boogie.
Yeah, he's a internet legend, a YouTube legend. He's the idea of the fat guy playing World of Warcraft. He has several of those videos back in the day. There's, I think, a famous one where his internet goes down or something, and he has this alternate character that he does called Francis, who just rages against everything. So he was like huge back in the day when there wasn't a whole lot to watch on YouTube, and things would get viral. And you could see that on his channel he's got 4.1 or 11 million subscribers. And if you look at his current viewership, he gets around 20K of view. So not really pulling in that full subscriber of 4 million. But yeah, and so he's kind of fallen on hard times. And on his latest video, and then again, in this cringe corner, he's fallen on, I guess his content back in the day could have been kind of considered cringe, and his content now is getting pretty cringy. He's a fellow Arkansan. He lives up in, I think, Fort Smith. But yeah, he ran into a bit of a controversy early this year. Last year, he shot off a firearm because another internet guy came to confront him on his door, and he felt he was threatened with his life. And that's a whole thing I won't get into. But currently, he made a bunch of money back in the day, and he got really caught up in internet drama. Like I said, he ended up shooting off a gun and had a little bit of a mental breakdown. So he kind of skipped out on online stuff for a long while. And he in this current video saying that he needs help, he accidentally invested into the wrong cryptocurrency. And yeah, you could go ahead and play a little bit. That's his little dog there. He invested in unwisely into some bad crypto and lost most of his nest egg. So he's falling upon hard times. And in this video, he's begging people to watch his channel and to like, subscribe, and then also to maybe join his Patreon and subscribe to his channel. There's also we don't have it set up because we're not there yet, but you could join the channel where you pay a certain amount. I think he has different tiers.
You're a member or whatever.
Yeah, you're a member of the channel. And so yeah, and he go and Papa Gut, I watch him. He kind of critiqued this video as and he said some things that was in the back of my mind, because in the video, Boogie says, well, I'll if you join my channel and you become a member, I might make some member only content and put it up there if I get enough membership. And then if you look at his videos, he does 1 or 2 a day, but they're like between 3 minutes to 10. And it's like, if this is your job, what me and Mike do, we're kind of doing it off on the side as opposed to our actual jobs. This is his job. He's full-time YouTuber, Twitch streamer. And Papa Gut's like, start working your ass. If you need money now, I mean, you're getting 20K of viewers. That's not bad. If you start putting out content, if you say you're going to make some, member only content, instead of saying, well, I might promise that to the people and deliver, like I said, work. Yeah,
Yep.
he
Do the
probably
work.
he's probably gotten away with doing the minimum effort. For the longest time, he doesn't change, but he still wants the money. So that's a little cringy to me. Start working.
No, I agree with that. And devil's advocate, he did something for a long period of time to warrant 4.11 million viewers, but at the
Yeah,
same time,
right.
you are only as good as your last
Yeah,
whatever of
yep,
content.
yeah,
And if you stop doing it, people are going to stop showing up,
right,
and that's just the game. So
right. No, well, and also if you don't change with the times, the what worked 10 years ago on YouTube may not work today, and PewDiePie is probably the best example as far as someone that can kind of change and adapt, and he treats it like a job. It's
yep,
and he's very savvy as far as what he needs to do to stay alive on YouTube, and he does quite well. So
yeah,
you really have to change and adapt.
yeah. And I don't watch PewDiePie on the regular, but I am a subscriber, and like he moved to Japan, and his vlogs or vlogs about him doing that were entertaining. That was interesting to me because like I've never lived in Japan. It's curious to me. Like I don't know, like it's just interesting content. But the point is that I think he's back to uh his regular thing. But take that as it may. At the end of the day, put the work in.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, and that leads us to my and I've recommended this before, but I gotta say the last few weeks, their content has been friggin' amazing. It's just on point. They do they spin free news and analysis of comics, film, Hollywood, corporate politics, and more. Tom and I can't pronounce the other guy's name. He's they're foreign. He's foreign, and Tom Connors is like he's an associate of this, but their content has been killer. They have absolutely nailed the important facts, not misinformation or whatever, like just the things around it. And I find myself being watching more and more of their content. It's just awesome. I definitely follow I've fallen into their live stream. It seems to be the thing on YouTube now is your favorite channels, hopefully, whatever you pick, they're being pushed to do more live streams. There's a handful of YouTubers that I will watch. I do not watch the whole 5 hour stream or something. This is ridiculous, but I will, like, if it's during the workday and it happens during the day, like heel versus babyface. I love this content. It's been very fascinating. To name a few, Nerdrotic, Midnight's Edge for a little bit more, solid take on things instead of just opinion. I'd say
Yeah.
Nerdrotic and heel versus babyface is more opinion. Midnight's Edge is a little bit more factual, and with that is a tie-in to kind of put a nice little bow on it. Culture Casino is a frequent guest on Midnight Edge stream. Just recently dipped into his stuff, but it's good. It's good stuff. So like if you want like the wider picture with a little bit more opinion too, he knows his stuff. If he's wrong, he says it. He just covers the factual content. But those are the two for one that I have this week. But go check them out. See if you have any entertainment from them. I guarantee you, if you stick with them long enough, they'll come across something that you have interest in. So it's just interesting to kind of see more of their shorter content, not so much the live stream. That's for more of the super fans, I guess. But those are my two for the week. And with that, I think we got a grab bag. What do you think, Thomas?
Yeah, we might as well close it up. We're done for the week.
Yeah, you got anything else you want to cover or have an opinion on?
I have an opinion about everything now. What are you talking about? Oh no, yeah, I'm finishing up. I'm on book 4 of the Sandman, so I'll be finishing up that for the second time. But yeah, enjoying that. But yeah, like I said, the first season of the Sandman inspired me to do my reread. Yeah, since the pandemic, I've been checking off all the things that I've been meaning to do. I've been checking them off. So I don't know if it was because of the pandemic, I had some extra time or what it was, but I finally read read Dune, and we're coming up on our anniversary. I look back and look like we recorded our first podcast on November 2nd of last year.
Right.
So
Okay.
we're quickly.
I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we did it on your channel, so it doesn't reflect on our channel here.
I
But
got to re-upload that one. I have it in the archives. I just got to re-upload it because we were still figuring out our stuff there.
Yeah, we're very rough around the edges. So, but that's okay. Yeah, we all have to start somewhere. But yeah, so hopefully we'll toss around a couple ideas on what we want to do with the with our anniversary episode. Hopefully it'll be kind of Dune centric, since that's how we inaugurated our channel.
I am a herald of the change. I watched that earlier today, but yeah, with that in mind, I have a pretty robust Audible stream of books that I routinely buy and listen to, and one that I'm going through for the moment is Wayward Galaxy. It's by Jason Anspach and J.N. Chaney. And then the other one that I had mentioned a little bit earlier was V Wars by Jonathan Mayberry. V Wars : Fire and Blood. But those are pretty entertaining. But there were no other ones that I was looking at. But anyway, maybe I'll put them in the description or not. But always got to keep that burning, and I look forward to it. Anyway, this month, to kind of call it back to our main show, we are doing all horror movies. We kicked off October with X and Men, X-Men, A24 movie productions as they were. One was Alex Garland, and we continued Alex Garland this week with our the movies that we covered this week. What were those, Thomas?
Annihilation and Ex Machina.
Indeed.
I am AI.
Yeah. AI or The Shimmering or whatever. So if you're curious, go check out that down below. And with that, I'm Mike.
And as always, I'm Thomas.
We'll see you on the next side. Flip side. The other side.
Later, nerds.
Later, nerds. I like it. Cool.